Picture yourself in the parking lot, 20 minutes out from a session with a leadership team you've been studying for weeks. You've done the reading. You've felt the tilt of that room, the way one set of priorities always seems to win and another always seems to wait. You can name the 7 people. You've watched their stances. You've clocked which domains they default into and where the conversation tends to jam. All of that is sitting in your head, real and useful and completely unstructured. And here's where most coaches I work with go wrong. They trust the head to hold it. They walk in carrying a cloud of impressions and assume those impressions will sharpen their questions in the moment. They mostly don't. A read that lives only in your head behaves like a hunch, and a hunch is slippery. It shifts under pressure. It gets crowded out the second the room gets loud, and it never quite lands as a precise move. What changes a coach from good to startlingly precise is one humble act done in that parking lot, on paper, before you ever open the door. In this video, I'm going to walk you through that act. We're going to take everything you've gathered across this module and assemble it into a single page, a center of gravity map that you fill out before the room. It's a small ritual. It takes 10 minutes, and it does something the cloud of impressions can never do. It makes your reading visible to you so you can use it, test it, and revise it while the session is live in front of you. Let me put a finer point on what's actually happening in those 20 minutes. Because the act itself is small and the payoff is large, and people skip it precisely because it looks too modest to matter. You arrive with 4 things already in hand. You have the felt tilt, that bodily sense of which way the room leans before anyone said a word. You have the 7 profiles, your read on each person as an individual. You have the stances they tend to take and the domains they live in. That's a genuine pile of perception, earned over real observation. The question I want you sitting with is the one that decides whether any of it converts into coaching. What do you actually do with all of it before you walk in? I'm asking about the doing, the move you make with the pile, not the knowing. Because knowing and using are 2 different muscles, and the gap between them is exactly where good preparation goes to die. A read you can't write down stays a vague hunch, and a vague hunch has a fatal property. It doesn't sharpen your next move. It can't. It's too diffuse to point anywhere. When the room heats up and the finance chief starts hammering a point and you feel that familiar tilt take over, a hunch dissolves. It offers you nothing to stand on. A written line, by contrast, gives you something to check the moment against. That's the whole reason we put pen to paper. We're converting a fog into an instrument. So here's the instrument. 1 page, 4 lines, filled out before the room. I want you to think of it as a single page you could hold in your hand. Not a document, not a deck. 4 lines, and each one names something specific you're walking in to watch for. Line 1 is the team's likely dominant formation, the center of gravity. This is the gravitational pull of the room, the priority that bends every conversation toward itself. Line 2 is the voices the system structurally marginalizes. Notice the word structurally. I don't mean who talks least. I mean which perspectives the room is built to discount no matter who's holding them. The market read, the culture signal, the long view that never quite gets the floor. Line 3 is the Kantor behavioral evidence to watch for. Which stances are oversupplied and which are starved, which domains the leaders default into, which operating system the room jams itself into when it's under strain. This is the part you can actually see happen in real time, so you're priming your eyes to catch it. And line 4 is the one coach question that surfaces the tilt. A single question you carry in your pocket, ready to set on the table when the moment opens. 4 lines: formation, marginalized voices, behavioral evidence, and the question. That's the entire map. Lean enough to write in 10 minutes, dense enough to change how you listen for the next 90. Now, I don't want this map to feel like it dropped out of the sky, because it didn't. Every line on it traces directly back to work you've already done in this module. That's the quiet elegance of it. You're not generating new insight in the parking lot. You're assembling insight you already earned. So let me show you where each line comes from, because knowing the source is what lets you trust the line under pressure. Line 1 and line 2, the dominant formation and the voices it marginalizes, those come from Unit 5.1. That's where we learn to read a team's center of gravity and to see which perspectives a given formation structurally pushes to the edge. So when you write those 2 lines, you're drawing straight from that work. You're not guessing, you're recalling. Line 3, the behavioral evidence, the stances, the domains, the operating system the room defaults into, that's the whole of Unit 5.2. That unit trained your eye to watch for the Kantor signals, the over and undersupplied behaviors that betray where a team really lives. Line 3 is you putting that trained eye on alert. And line 4, the one question that surfaces the tilt, comes from 5.1.2, where we built the craft of asking the question that lets a room feel its own lean without being told about it. So this page is 4 threads from across the module braided into one usable artifact. Every line has a parent, and that lineage is what gives you the confidence to write it down and act on it. Let me fill one in so you can see it breathe, because an abstract map teaches nothing. A worked example teaches everything. Picture a finance-dominant tech company, the kind where the CEO came up through the CFO chair and you can feel it the moment you sit down. Line 1, dominant formation, finance. The center of gravity is the spreadsheet. Every idea in that room eventually has to pass through a model before it's allowed to be real. Line 2, the marginalized voices. The chief marketing officers read on the market, and the chief human resources officers signal about the culture. They may be loud people, and the system still treats their inputs as soft, as nice to haves, as the things you get to after the numbers are settled. Line 3, the behavioral evidence to watch for. Finance and legal saturating the opposed stance, always the ones poking holes. Marketing and human resources stuck in follow, going along because the floor was never really theirs. The room defaulting to a closed operating system, tight and rule-bound, and most of the talk happening in the domain of power. Who decides? Who controls, rather than meaning or effect. Line 4, the question I'd carry in. What matters here that this team can't yet measure? 1 page, 4 lines. And already, before I've said a word in that room, I know exactly what to listen for. And I have a question in my pocket that goes straight at the tilt. Now, here's the discipline that keeps this whole practice honest, and it's the part that separates a coach from a profiler. Every single line on that page is a hypothesis. It is a starting read, nothing more, and the room is fully allowed to overturn it. I cannot say this strongly enough, because the map is seductive. You did the work, you filled it in beautifully. The finance dominant read feels airtight, and so you walk in half wanting the room to prove you right. That wanting is the trap. The moment you hold a line as a verdict, you stop perceiving and you start confirming. You'll hear the evidence that fits your map, and you'll miss the evidence that breaks it. And the most important thing in that room is almost always the thing that breaks your map. So you carry the page differently. The coach updates the map live as the session shows what's actually true. 10 minutes in, the marketing voice turns out to be the one everyone secretly defers to. Fine, you cross out line 2 and write the truth. The map was your best guess walking in. The room is the authority. Here's the line I want you to hold. A map held as certainty becomes a projection, and a projection is something you impose on people. A map held as a hypothesis stays perception, and perception is something you offer them. Same page, same 4 lines. The difference is entirely in how tightly your hand is gripping it. There's a second discipline, and it's just as important as the first. This map stays below the waterline. It is the coach's working depth, and the team never sees it. I think of it the way a skilled clinician thinks during an exam. While she's talking with you, warm and unhurried, there's a whole stream of private reasoning running underneath. Differentials forming, signals being weighed, possibilities ranked and set aside. You never hear any of that. What you experience is a doctor whose questions are uncannily on target, who seems to ask the one thing that gets to the heart of it. The reasoning is the engine. The questions are what surface. Your map is that private reasoning, the dominant formation, the marginalized voices, the stances, the question. That's your clinical depth, and it belongs in your notebook and your preparation, never on a flip chart, never named to the room. What the team experiences is a coach whose questions are startlingly precise, who somehow asks about the thing no one was saying, who lands a question that makes the room go quiet because it's exactly right. They will not know why your questions are so good. The source of that precision is your formation fluency, working quietly behind the conversation, and it works best when it stays invisible. The moment the map surfaces, it stops being depth and starts being a lecture. And yet there is one bridge from your private depth into the room, exactly one, and ICF names it for us so we can walk it cleanly. It lives in Core Competency 7.11 under Evokes Awareness. The competency says the coach shares observations, knowledge, and feelings without attachment that have the potential to create new insight for the client. Read that phrase slowly. Without attachment that have the potential to create new insight. Every word is load-bearing, so you are permitted to offer a single observation drawn from your map when it would create learning. It sounds like this. I notice the finance perspective and the marketing perspective are operating on different clocks. What happens when we name that? See what that move is. An observation set on the table, lightly, for the room to pick up or leave. You're not explaining why they're on different clocks. You're not citing formation theory. You're not attached to where they take it. They make the meaning. That's a coaching move, living fully inside the conversation. And here's the line it must not cross. Teaching the framework to the room as curriculum. The second you start explaining the center of gravity, walking them through imprint, turning your map into a slide, You've left the coaching seat and taken the trainer's seat. One observation that creates learning is coaching. The framework taught as content is a workshop. The bridge is real, but it's narrow, and it only holds your weight if you cross it without attachment. Here's your work before the next unit, and I want you to actually do it on paper, because the whole point of this lesson is that the page does something the head can't. Pick a team you've coached or observed closely enough to have real reads on. The team you've carried through this module is perfect. Fill out a center of gravity map, all 4 lines, 1 page. Line 1, the team's dominant formation, the center of gravity. Line 2, the voices the system structurally marginalizes. Line 3, the Kantor evidence you'd watch for, the over and undersupplied stances, the default domains, the operating system the room jams into. And line 4, the one question you'd carry in to surface the tilt. Write it tight. 1 page, not 3. Then do the part that builds the discipline. Go back through and mark each line. Is this a confirmed observation I've actually seen? Or is it a hypothesis I'd be ready to revise the moment the room contradicts it? Be honest about which is which. The line you're holding most tightly as fact is the one most likely to turn into a projection the instant the real room pushes back. So notice that grip. And keep the page below the waterline. It lives in your notebook and your reflection, never on a slide, never handed to the team. This is your working depth, the thing that will make your questions precise. Hold on to it. In the next unit, we turn the lens one last time because there's one more formation in that room you haven't mapped yet, and it's yours.